Hello beautiful people. So today's video is going to address why are there so few applicants for so many law enforcement positions, even though they're paying the highest salaries they've ever paid and offer the highest bonuses they've ever paid. So please stay and pay attention to just my opinion on why this is happening. So 2.5 years ago, we went through COVID and all this other stuff, and now we're coming out of COVID. But 2.5 years ago, something started happening in YouTube in terms of polarization of titles. If you look at videos from 2.5 years ago, those videos have normal titles, and then now they're more of a how do I grab the consumer's attention by shocking his conscience or her conscience. And by the way, this polarization is not just happened by chance. No, it was intentional because we were going through a period of transformation. People, of the new generation wanted to be heard, wanted to be validated, and that's totally important. All these things that I'm telling you, I'm totally supportive of it. But when it comes to like the news media, they wanted to feed people what they were hungry for. They were hungry for polarizing events that basically were going to drive decisions, right? And so before all of this happened, you had, say, 10 openings for police officers, and you'd have, 800 applicants. And so it was like, very competitive. Now you have agencies that have 45 positions, and they get 7 applicants. And why is that? It's based on what I just told you in the beginning of this video. We're going through a time where the news media, social media, and the perception controls a lot of what people believe it to be true. And so when I was a police officer, I loved being a police officer. I loved going out there and catching bad guys, driving fast. Every day was a new day. It was a challenge to go out there and, one day you're taking a call from somebody's son's bicycle got stolen. The next minute you're driving 80 miles an hour after a bank robber. So that's part of the job. And so what is happening right now is that a lot of people in the new generation are ignoring the validity of being a peace officer, a sworn officer. And so agencies are paying the highest salaries. CDCR is desperately trying to fill 2,000 positions. CDCR stands for California Rehabilitation and Corrections Department, and they're starting salaries $107,000 a year plus overtime. So I told my recent classes that I have a student that got hired by them, and she's doing overtime. So her first year, she'll make $120,000. She's doing really well. She bought her dream car. She has her own place. Life is good, and it's nothing like what she had seen on social media about how dangerous the job was and how corrupt the job was. I want to teach you something as a current college professor, is that all organizations have bad apples. All organizations have bad apples. Few bad apples, I hope, but it is their job to remove those bad apples. And law enforcement was no different. We had some rogue officers. We still have some that need to be removed. But every time those rogue officers did something, the news media caught that, and the social media just basically blew up. Every video that has polarizing events, people are watching it. And so videos that have the negative reporting on police get the highest views. And so I'm teaching you something very important here. I'm teaching you that it's important that you understand why there's very few applicants. Now, you can be a sheep and you can follow all the other sheep to a place of nowhere, or you can start looking at how important what's happening in law enforcement provides you an opportunity to get hired somewhere. So let's get something out of the way real quick. Is the job dangerous? There's certain dangers involved. There's a lot of danger involved in the job. But when you look at the amount of times that an officer gets involved in an officer-involved shooting, it's like very small in a 27-30 year period compared to what you think you see on TV, right? It's very rare that an officer will have more than a couple officer-involved shootings in a 30-year period. Now, if you go to the OSHA website, and there's a reason why I'm telling you this, if you go to the OSHA website, which tracks industrial injuries, you will find that construction workers is the most dangerous job out there. Construction workers get killed, much higher rate than police officers. They get injured at much higher rate than police officers. If you look at Caltrans, for example, in California, the people that maintain the highways, they're always getting hit. Cars are going out of control, driving into construction zones, etc. So their risk to their lives is much higher than a police officer. And don't get me wrong, there are some dangers involved in the job, but you drive every day, and there's traffic accidents every day, and people are dying on the highway every day. It doesn't prevent you from getting on the highway and driving. I'm telling you these things as I've learned over the years that a lot of people use fear, right? And what they've heard somewhere, what they read on, news media, or what they saw on social media, to basically block them from getting the career of their dreams. I wanted to become a police officer since I was very young, and I did everything that I could to become a police officer, right? And so today's students, you graduate high school, what are you gonna do? You're 18, I don't know what I wanna do. Okay, go to junior college. Get a 2-year degree in criminal justice. You're gonna be 20 years old, transfer to a 4-year university, get a 4-year degree. Now you're 22 years old. You're the perfect age to get into a law enforcement position. You're gonna get hired by a law enforcement agency. They're gonna put you through their academy. They're gonna pay you to go through the academy, and then they're gonna pay you a really good salary to work for that agency, a really good paying salary. Now, a lot of things are happening in police. A lot of police reform is taking place where we're trying to push for de-escalation. We're trying to get the community's support. We're trying to get the community to embrace us. The community themselves is coming out of some really big incidents, and the majority of people who are law-abiding citizens are starting to realize that we have a major shortage of peace officers, a major shortage of peace officer applicants. And the majority of the population, is what I'm reading, recognizes that if they call 911, they want someone to respond. And if they continue to support the organizations that are into defunding the police or whatever, one day they themselves are going to call, and no officer or deputy sheriff or state trooper is going to be available to respond. And so it's important that you understand this as you're watching this video early, so that you understand why this is happening. This is happening because, this thing got polarized out of control. Now, somebody takes a short YouTube video in the other side of the country, on the East Coast, and they post it to YouTube, and now it's all over, not just the United States, but it's all over the world. And so people who are sheep watch that video. Oh my gosh, see, I told you, that's how they are, etc., etc. And again, you can be a sheep, or you can decide, I do want to be a peace officer. I want to make a difference in my community. I want to have a good paying job. I want to have a good salary. I want to have money and savings to be able to vacation with my family. I want to buy a home. I want to have a nice car. All of those things come from getting a good paying career. And so stop letting fear decide what career you're going to do. I'm 5'8", 160-ish pounds. As a police officer, I was an average size officer. You see some officers that are 6'1", 6'2". Well, good for them, but I did fine at 5'8". You look at some officers who are way shorter than me. I knew Sue, a retired deputy sheriff from one of the adjoining counties, and she was 5'2", 125 pounds. She was a deputy sheriff, and she got hired, and she did well, and she promoted to detective, and she retired as a detective with a really good pay into her retirement. And so again, not just answering the question, why are there few applicants, but I'm asking you, right? Are you letting fear, right? Fear, doubt, and what other people are saying decide what career you're going to get into, right? Because, they say the farmer who raises sheep is always afraid when the sheep gets spooked, because one sheep will take off and then all the other sheep will follow it. And say if you're in Ireland, you're afraid because there's a bunch of cliffs And so if the first sheep jumps over the cliff, all the other sheep behind it will go right following that sheep, and then you'll have 80 dead sheep because they were just following the sheep that started running. I'm always telling people and students like yourself, my subscribers, not to be a sheep, right? Not to follow others who are doing things that you don't even know what they're doing, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not just saying you have to be a police officer. There's a bunch of positions in law enforcement. There's police dispatchers that are the lifeline of the officers. There's a bunch of support staff, the police records division, the evidence room, evidence testing, community service officers. There's detectives. There's a bunch of support positions in law enforcement. And certainly, if you get hired in today's law enforcement, especially if you have a college degree, you're going to do about 3 years on patrol, and then you're going to apply to be promoted to detective, or be promoted into a special assignment, working narcotics, working gangs, working whatever, right? And so eventually you get promoted to sergeant, eventually you get promoted to lieutenant or captain or chief. And so it's not like, oh my gosh, I got 30 years, where am I going to drive a car for 30 years? You can drive a car for 30 years, but you could also get your college degree before you apply, and then apply to an agency who gives you incentives for having a college degree, for speaking a second language, for whatever the skills are. You have a 2-year degree from the community college, they pay you 5% of your salary. You have a 4-year college degree, they pay you 7% of your salary. Some departments pay you shift differential, that you're getting more money if you work nights, which are more dangerous than days. Like my agency, before I left, if you were over 40 years old, you never had to work nights because you had seniority. You pretty much stay on days for the rest of your career. And the other question, before I get ready to close this video, is that the same subscriber asked, that they're offering bonuses. These agencies are so desperate, they're offering bonuses from $10,000 to $35,000. And is that true? And again, it's part of what I told you earlier, right? They're trying to get people interested in serving their communities as a peace officer. But unfortunately, social media and the news media, which are often very against structured law enforcement, are bashing law enforcement every chance they get, because again, polarizing stories tend to drive viewers to those channels. And so, you don't see a lot of stories about Johnny is on honor roll, straight A student in 6th grade, and he's been on honor roll for the last 2 years, ever since he was in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. Now he's been on honor roll. You never hear those stories. But the second that there's been an officer-involved shooting, or there's a pursuit, or there's a corrupt officer, or whatever, those stories get shared thousands and thousands of times for more and more viewers. And so again, think about what this is doing to the fabric of society in terms of you, the young person that's watching my channel, or the person that wants to switch careers, want to apply for law enforcement, but you're allowing what is happening in social media to dictate your decision, or to say, I'm not going to apply because I'm afraid I saw this one video, this officer did this, this, and this. Again, every single organization out there, especially large organizations, will have corrupt employees. There's people out there stealing from their employers. There's people out there sabotaging employers' software. There's people out there robbing employers without employers knowing. The employer leaves, they go into the yard, they load up a bunch of expensive equipment that belongs to the company, they get arrested. But again, you don't ever hear those stories about the lumberman who stole $40,000 of lumber, or the scam artist who worked for Apple who did this, this, and this. What you are hearing, and what people are interested in, is all the corruption in law enforcement. And unfortunately, that what is happening in social media is scaring the heck out of young applicants from applying to law enforcement, and that's why we have a shortage. That's kind of a long thing, but I'm a lecture professor, so I tend to kind of make a complete loop So that first giving you the basics, then giving you a little bit of, of what you need to be thinking about, critical thinking, and so forth. So I'm going to close this video, probably one of my longest videos, with find out what career would make you happy. For me, I love being a police officer. I love going out there and enforcing the law. Every day was different. I love working with other men and women in law enforcement who make communities safer. I love being a problem solver. I worked in the city attorney's office. I worked with the city manager. I did a bunch of different special assignments when I was in law enforcement because I truly was devoted to reducing crime, improving the quality of life in neighborhoods. And if that's where your passion is, then you should look into a career in law enforcement. Most agencies are starting out now at about $100,000 a year plus overtime. There's a lot of perks. If you work for an agency for a certain amount of time, agencies now are hiring other officers, experienced officers, we call them laterals, and they transfer all of your vacation, all of your sick time. So there's a potential for advancement. I'm going to say one last thing before this thing gets way too long. Pick large departments if possible. Large agencies are less political than small departments. Pick large agencies that have opportunity for advancement. You know, your large agencies in California, San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward, Bay Area agencies are paying very, very well. I believe San Carlos is $160,000 a year with all the benefits, and so something for you to think about. And so if you want to check a list of all the agencies that are currently hiring, go online to post.ca.gov. That's in California, post.ca.gov. Go to hiring, and alphabetical is showing all of the agencies that are hiring. It's not even the total number of agencies, but you'll be surprised. Anytime you see trainee or entry level, they will put you through the necessary training. They'll pay you to go through the necessary training, and then you'll have a full-time career. And that's very, very important for those of you who are looking to get stability into your lives and everything else. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Click the bell so you're notified when I post new videos. Share this video with others who are on the fence, trying to decide, whether they're going to apply or not. There's a golden opportunity right now to get into these law enforcement agencies where the number of applicants are low. So instead of following the majority, they're not doing anything with their lives, start researching and applying for agencies that are going to pay you well, that you're going to feel good about helping your community, right? Improving the quality of life. And do, on the comments, share any other areas that you would like me to speak about on this channel. I have a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience in law enforcement, over 27 years in law enforcement, that I can share with you. Plus, I can apply what's happening now in the current environment that can help you get a job in law enforcement. I have a ton of other videos, but anyway, I'll cut the video short. Please take good care of yourself and keep listening to these videos and keep improving your quality of life. Be safe.